Ladies and gentlemen, grab your legal pads and your sense of outrage because the witch hunt against Donald Trump has just entered its umpteenth act. Jack Smith, the DOJ's favorite attack dog, has unleashed another indictment, but here's the plot twist. This legal Hail Mary might just be the fumble that cost them the game. So buckle up because we're about to dissect this legal farce faster than CNN can say anonymous sources. Now, we're talking about the high-stakes games. Let me tell you about a play that's always a winner. I'm talking about investing in copper. Yes, you heard that right. While the legal system is trying to tarnish Trump's reputation, smart investors are polishing their portfolios with copper. World Copper Limited, trading as WCUFF, is setting up a potential gold mine, or should I say copper mine. We're talking 7 million tons of copper, folks. That's enough to make the Green New Deal blush. With copper essential for every electric vehicle and wind turbine, this is not just an investment, it's a bet on the future. So check out the stock ticker and investor presentation in the description below. But remember, always do your own research. Unlike the DOJ, we believe in due diligence. So let's jump into this now. We've got Donald Trump. Deranged special prosecutor Jack Smith, along with corrupt grand jury, has just issued a superseding indictment again. And the Trumpster is responding. Let's go.
It's always been very clear that the documents case, it's a hoax, is nothing but an election interference scam concocted by crooked Joe Biden and deranged Jack Smith and their hacks and thugs.
He is pissed. Now, I've seen him lay some fire, but I can tell there is some deep, deep venom in him. He is mad. I don't even know how this guy does it. I don't know how this guy pulls through attack after attack after attack. Anyone else would have folded. This guy, he fights, and fights.
Totally illegal what they've done. And now deranged Jack has admitted in a filing in front of Judge Cannon, a highly respected judge, strong and smart, to what I've been saying happened since the illegal raid of my home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida. An illegal raid it was, that he and his team committed blatant evidence tampering by mishandling the very boxes they used as a pretext to bring this fake case and to hurt the president so that crooked Joe Biden could get another 4 years, which would destroy our country. This deeply illegal action by the politicized persecutors mandate that this whole witch hunt be dropped immediately. They are crooked, they are corrupt, they are bad people. And by the way, they let Biden out of his boxes examination, documents, whatever you want to call it. They let him out with no problem. He can go. He had 10 times the boxes. He had a lot of classified information. They let him out, but they continue to go after Donald Trump.
Biden didn't even have the cover of presidential immunity. They should have gone after Biden 10 times harder than Trump. But, Biden's just too old to stand trial. He's just an old man.
But I think it's going to end very well. So we want to put a stop to the boxes, hoaxes. We're going to make America great again, and 2024 is going to be the biggest year in the history of our country, and November 5th is going to be the single biggest day in the history of America. It's called Election Day. We're going to turn our country around, make America great again, greater than ever before. Thank you very much.
Remember the 5th of November. Yes, it's right around the corner, my friends. So we got lots of reaction here from this, not just President Trump. We got, listen to this. They're calling it a clear criminal conspiracy. Listen to this.
There's a very clear criminal conspiracy against rights here.
This is Mike Davis, the founder and president of the Article 3 Project on Real America's Voice on the War Room, as Steve Bannon sits in a prison cell.
There's a very clear criminal conspiracy against rights here. There's a very clear criminal conspiracy by these Biden and Kamala Justice Department officials, Biden and Kamala themselves, their staffs in the White House, and they're working with
So let me be clear about this, Mike. Not just Jack Smith should be subject to an indictment on this, but anybody that he communicated about this. So that could include Kamala Harris herself and anybody on her campaign staff, and certainly Joe Biden, although one could speculate that Joe is totally out of the loop now. But you're saying that you could use Jack Smith's exact legal logic to indict Jack Smith and possibly Kamala Harris.
If you can use Jack Smith's logic, certainly to open a criminal probe for a criminal conspiracy against rights, a very serious federal civil rights felony, 18 U.S.C. 241, and anyone who was involved in this conspiracy to violate President Trump's civil rights, your civil rights, Peter, Steve Bannon's civil rights, John Eastman's civil rights, Rudy Giuliani's civil rights, Jeffrey Clark's civil rights, the January 6th defendants who are being persecuted, their civil rights. You have a lot of people who could be part of this conspiracy. They don't believe.
Are judges, Mike, are judges?
So here we go. An elite America's record.
Oh, wow. So they are in a conspiracy. J.D. Vance weighing in on the tarmac in front of Trump Force 2.
More election interference. Smith. It's clearly an effort to try to do more election interference from Jack Smith. He should be ashamed of himself, and it's one of the reasons why we have to win, because he should not be anywhere near power.
It's unbelievable. They will not stop. When I heard this, I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Another one? It's like just trying to keep track of every single thread of news is virtually impossible. Every story, every timeline, trying to keep it all in order. Which court case? Which indictment? Who's running for president now? Like, what? I mean, it's just this entire campaign season has been insane. Absolutely insane. And now they're throwing another indictment. Criminal conspiracy. Huh. Chris Chung posting that. Now, here is another point Mike Davis makes, that Jack Smith didn't act alone.
In which this Biden-Kamala special counsel Jack Smith is ignoring two recent monumental Supreme Court decisions. The Fisher case.
Jack Smith is ignoring monumental Supreme Court decisions. See, he can go ahead and file these things. He can file them, and then he can push them into the court system, and then you got to defend it again. And now you got to start back at zero, and you got to say, well, by the way, the Supreme Court said this, and you should throw this out again. That's what this is. It's just to make more headlines. It's just to bog Trump down, get him back in court to defend something that shouldn't even be in the court to begin with.
In which the Supreme Court held that the Biden-Kamala Justice Department illegally contorted, politicized, and weaponized a post-Enron obstruction of justice statute intended to go after corporate fraud that the Biden-Kamala regime used to go after Trump and his supporters on January 6th. That 18 U.S.C. 1512, those are two of the four charges in Jack Smith's original complaints and in his superseding complaint, his new complaint, his new indictment that he just filed. So that's two of the four that the Supreme Court said in Fisher you can't do, right? And so then there are two others that Jack have in here. The problem with that is that Jack Smith is ignoring the Supreme Court's recent presidential immunity decision where you cannot charge a president.
Right, you
can't even get evidence that the president of the president's official acts. You can't charge the president for what he does in his official capacity as the president of the United States, and including the outer perimeter of that official capacity, according to a 40-year-old precedent in the civil as opposed to the criminal context, the Nixon case. Jack Smith ignored that. And the bigger problem here is that Jack Smith didn't just do this alone. He had to have gotten Biden-Kamala Attorney General Merrick Garland's sign off to do this. So Merrick Garland definitely signed off on this. And there's no question, there's no doubt that President Biden at a minimum, and likely Vice President Kamala Harris were made aware of this before this happened. This is a
Oh, there's no question that they knew, if not ordered it to happen, because they just want to keep bogging Trump down.
continuation of the lawfare and election interference against President Trump, his top aides like you, Peter, who they sent to prison for 4 months, Steve Bannon, who's sitting in prison right now and you're filling in for him, Jeffrey Clark, John Eastman, Rudy Giuliani, Trump's attorneys, who they're making go through hell. They politically persecuted Trump supporters on January 6th. Yes, politically persecuted per the Supreme Court's Fisher decision. This Biden-Kamala.
Yes. Now this guy makes a lot of rounds. I see his videos pop up, but he's got a really interesting take that I want to share with you. Listen to this. Listen to there's a connection here that you need to pay attention to.
He filed, holy shit, Jack Smith just filed a superseding indictment against Donald Trump. And the charges are exactly the same as they were before. Yeah, you heard me. Jack Smith's original indictment was pretty much done. Like, he wasn't allowed to take any action until after the election. So he filed a superseding indictment with the exact same charges, but this time he filed it in a court where the judge is a close personal friend. I wish I was making that up. And here's the beauty of it. Even though Jack Smith's case has already been pretty much put away, he now filed a superseding indictment, and he filed it with a court where the judge has been a friend of his for about the last 30 years. And even though Jack Smith knows the moment the case moves beyond that court, it's going to be thrown the fuck out, his buddy, the judge, can keep it in his court for at least the next 6 months. Meaning that Jack Smith now has the power to pull Trump off the campaign trail and force him into court whenever the fuck he wants, all the way up to the election. And there is nothing that any other court can do about it. Jack Smith can now tie up Donald Trump sitting in court throughout the entire election cycle, throughout the entire campaign trail. But guys, how much shit has to happen before we recognize our government is the problem?
Yeah, how much more? Here is the indictment. Jack Smith filing a superseding indictment against Trump because they couldn't win the first go-round. They're trying again with a different one. This is corruption at its finest. J.D. Vance, of course, weighing in. Jack Smith should be ashamed of himself. Here is Glenn Beck. Listen to Glenn.
Entirely.
So are they doing this to smear him yet again so late in the campaign? Or is this a plan just in case he wins? They think this will keep him out of office?
I think, Glenn, that they're doing it for all of those reasons, right? They absolutely want to block him any way they can. So this is election interference. There's no way that you should be issuing a new indictment like this, using a new grand jury this close to a major presidential election, especially one of these states. And then, look, and that it also shows me that this was being concealed. So what happens is that the court was told, because it was ready to go and start trying to set deadlines and the like to try to march back toward a trial. And Jack Smith made a filing in the last couple of weeks that said, no, hold on, slow down. I need more time. We're doing consultations inside the Justice Department. Well, I'm sure they were doing consultations inside the Justice Department, but that's not the real reason. It's now clear that the real reason is that he was actually in secret grand jury proceedings getting this superseding indictment.
Wow.
And the media, right? The media has been all over watching the D.C. courthouse. I mean, back in the real height of this a year ago, no one could walk into the courthouse, even if it was for an entirely different reason, and not have the media report XYZ, notable person went in, they must be going to the grand jury, or there was, speculation amundo. But for this proceeding, somehow, like, it surprised everyone. All of the mainstream media purported to say, well, Jack Smith's just consulting inside the Justice Department. I think that was essentially running a cover story for the fact that they were conveniently not purporting not to watch the courthouse, because they would have seen the prosecutors regularly going to the grand jury to get this new indictment, and yet there was entire radio silence on that until the surprise of yesterday.
Surprise of yesterday. What do you think about that? So they are not stopping. Ted Cruz weighing in as well. Here's an interesting connection brought up on Timcast IRL. Jack Smith's wife, you ready for this? Documentary filmmaker who created Michelle Obama's Netflix show. A Netflix show titled Becoming. Listen to this. Another massive conflict of interest.
I don't know the issue. I just think it's outrageous that CNN would never mention the fact, for example, that his wife actually works as a documentary filmmaker who made the whole documentary about Becoming Michelle on Netflix. She's like basically a propagandist for the Obama family and the Democratic Party. And her husband is the one overseeing this operation to now usurp our Supreme Court to weaponize the judicial system against a former sitting president. I don't know.
Who made the Obama documentary?
Could you imagine that? Jack Smith's wife making a documentary about Michelle Obama. Imagine what conversations they're having in bed at night. Just casually talking about how they're trying to destroy this country and take down Donald Trump. Oh, I'm working on this Michelle Obama documentary. It's so great. Yeah, I got this secret indictment I'm about to launch against Trump, and nobody really knows about it. And we're going to go after him, even though the Supreme Court said we can't.
Jack Smith's wife.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Crazy.
What?
Yeah, you can look up her name. It's something like Kate.
I can send a link also over.
I was like, wait.
Yeah, I was just listening to
Katie
that. I don't know about that.
Chavigny?
Yeah.
No way. Is that for real?
She's like a hardcore Democratic Party
operative.
Producer.
Becoming.
Yeah, producer. Becoming.
It's called Becoming.
Yeah, for some reason that was what Michelle decided to call her memoir.
Wow. What are you trying to say there?
Nothing.
Becoming. Transitioning. Here is Ted Cruz weighing in on this, but I don't want to just glance over that, because that's a huge development. You even saw Tim Pool. He's like, wait a minute, what? Wait a minute. You're kidding me, right? You caught Tim Pool off guard. Think about it. Think about the collusion. Think about all the connections. Jack Smith talking to his wife, sharing some inside information, ends up on the set interviewing Michelle, sharing some gossip with Michelle. Michelle goes back to Obama. Oh, it's a very short jump for those pieces of information, inside information from those courtroom hearings, to get right to Obama, or to get a message back through. Think about it. Let's see what Ted Cruz has to say about this.
So a year ago, no president of the United States has ever been indicted. No major party candidate for the president had ever been indicted.
I cannot believe we're doing this again. I can't believe we're doing this again, to be honest with you. It's like we're living in freaking Groundhog Day. And we are always running into Ned Niedermeyer. Nederlander? Ned! Oh, no, Ned Ryerson. Ned Ryerson. Needle-nosed Ned. Right? We just keep running into freaking needle-nosed Ned every single day. We keep stepping in that damn puddle every single day. But eventually, we get out of it. And we get the girl. Right? That's what it's all about. And we're going to get the girl. We're going to get out of this. We're going to wake up out of Groundhog Day.
In the past year, Donald Trump has been indicted not once, not twice, not three times, 4 separate times by rabid Democrat partisans who are very concerned that the voters are going to elect him. Every one of these indictments They're not about the criminal law. They're not about the rule of law. They're not about actual conduct of Donald Trump. They are about trying to stop the voters from voting for him in November. We are 69 days away from Election Day, and Democrats are terrified he's going to win. And so I got to say, after 4 different indictments, to wake up and see yesterday a 5th indictment, it almost feels like that classic Saturday Night Live skit with Christopher Walken where he's a record producer and his solution to everything is more cowbell, more cowbell. The Democrats' answer to everything is more indictments, more indictments. They just want to indict Trump. So Jack Smith is like, to use another analogy, I don't know, I feel a little bit like Dennis Miller. Stop me before I sub-reference again. Jack Smith is like Javert from Les Mis. He is going after Jean Valjean. And Jean Valjean for him is Donald Trump, and he must get him. And so he filed a brand new indictment, 36 pages, and he indicted Trump again. Now, you asked, is this permissible after the Supreme Court decision? And the answer is yes, it is. So the Supreme Court did not conclude that Jack Smith had no authority in charges. The Supreme Court did not rule on whether Jack Smith was properly appointed. That was a basis for a ruling from the judge down in Florida concerning the documents case, but that was not in front of the Supreme Court. What the Supreme Court ruled is that presidents of the United States enjoy significant immunity from prosecution. And the line the Supreme Court laid out is that the immunity presidents enjoy is an immunity for actions carried out that are official actions, that are exercising their power as president. And significant parts of the first indictment were in the direct exercise of Trump's authority as president. The Supreme Court said you can indict a president for that. Look, presidents do all sorts of things that, frankly, you and I can't do. Presidents send the military into combat and kill people. If you and I sent someone out to kill someone, we would, in all likelihood, be charged with potentially murder or attempted murder. Presidents have authority under the Constitution that ordinary citizens do not. What Jack Smith did here is he refiled the indictment, and you can do that. So one question, and you and I were talking beforehand, and a question was, well, does this violate double jeopardy? And it does not. So double jeopardy is the protection in the Constitution against trying someone multiple times for the same crime. And the general rule is that jeopardy attaches when a jury is impaneled. In other words, when the trial, you get a jury together, you bring the jury, you start the trial, that's the point at which, okay, if the guy gets off, if the guy is acquitted, you can't prosecute him again because jeopardy is attached. At this point, jeopardy has not attached legally because an indictment has come down, but a jury has not been impaneled. So the prosecutor can indict Trump as many times as he wants to. That is part of being a prosecutor. Now, indicting is simply bringing a charge against him. And so what Jack Smith tried to do here was narrow the indictment. He has many of the same claims he had before, but he tried to carve out, to excise the bases that were most connected to Trump's official exercise of presidential authority. Now, I think this is going to fail. I think this is not going to go anywhere. But as I said, Jack Smith is like Javert. He is on a crusade, and so he did it yet again.
Yes, he did. He did it yet again. He did it yet again. I think we've really covered a lot of ground here on this story. We got Trump. We got the connection there. We got the reaction. Let me just kind of close with this, because here's Nicole Shanahan. This is RFK Jr.'s former running mate. And she said this in reaction to this CNN clip. And I believe this is the CNN clip, the announcement of the indictment itself on CNN. But she says, I'll admit, I used to kind of roll my eyes when people claimed that President Trump was being persecuted. I was looking at it through the distorted filter of the media while I just completed my first cross-examination in our second New York ballot access case, where the DNC-aligned PAC attorneys questioned me like a criminal. Okay, I get it now. Our justice system is clearly being co-opted and abused by nefarious people with malevolent political agendas. RFK's former running mate finally seeing the light when it comes to lawfare. She used to roll her eyes. Not anymore. So, my friends, the Trump indictment happening again. Groundhog Day happening again. Needle-nosed Ned stepping in that puddle every single day. But in the end, we get the girl. And that is the silver lining here. So as this legal circus continues, remember one thing. Every indictment is a badge of honor in the fight against the deep state. Trump is not just facing charges. He is facing down a corrupt system that is desperate to silence him. But here's the kicker. With every legal punch that they throw, Trump's support grows stronger. This is not just a courtroom drama. It is a battle for the soul of America. And spoiler alert, the deep state is losing.